Eng the dock code he forwarded by mistake, the night the boat lights waited. At 9:05 p.m., my phone buzzed with the kind of certainty only machines know how to fake. "Welcome, Kai," the message said, pretending to be intimate. "Gate code for Harbor Club slip C27 5513. Guests may enter via East Dock." Beneath that, a little banner winked. "Reservation confirmed 9:30 p.m. The sender lived in the ghost inbox we share for loyalty points and free trials, the address we give to apps that want to watch us behave. The forward at the top, clumsy, immediate, was from his number to mine. He'd left at 8 in the jacket that flatters him even when mirrors go evangelical. "Wrap toast," he'd said, 2 words that make celebration sound like minutes in someone else's calendar. Then notes with Soren, "Don't wait." Soren does sound. He carries microphones like small, confessional animals and listens with a face that makes people believe in themselves more than facts do. The oven kept a cinnamon thing warm because sweetness is how I lie to a room that already knows. The lights climbed the wall in clean blocks and refused to narrate me. I put the phone face down the way we promised to on good mornings and turned it over again the way men do when they want to misbehave with some elegance. 4 digits don't weigh anything. They still dragged my hand into my pocket by the time my shoes found the door. Harbor Club is the kind of marina the city keeps to remember its manners. A long line of masts stitched the sky like careful punctuation. The gate kiosk wore brushed steel with more pride than a small building deserves. When I typed 5513, the lock clicked like a throat deciding which answer to give. The dock lights threw themselves across the water and broke into coins. Diesel and salt argued politely under the wind. Slip C27 sat halfway down the finger pier, a 34-foot boat with a name I wished I could unsee, Blue Theory. Someone had cleaned the fiberglass until it could afford judgments. The cabin windows glowed the color of a good story. A cooler on the stern bench wore 2 champagne splits like earrings. I didn't text him. The distance between a thumb and a decision is a cliff after 9. The cabin door stood ajar the way a mouth does when it hasn't decided which version of itself to be. Inside, a narrow galley played at being domestic. A teak table learned about candlelight from a phone battery lamp. I could hear them, a laugh like permission, the low reply you save for rooms where the air remembers who touched it last. I stepped backward onto the swim platform and found the cleat with my heel, because gravity still believes in rehearsal. Kai came up first, jacket off, shirt open 1 button beyond daylight, hair a little more certain than I trust. He saw me the way a mirror sees bad news, first as himself, then as the thing after. Soren followed into the doorway with the quiet posture of a man who had trained himself to be furniture. He didn't apologize. He didn't audition. He looked at the water and let it keep his face. "Asher," Kai said, my name with the softness of a receipt. "Your boat club has excellent manners," I said, because jokes are the leash I use to keep panic from bolting. I held up the screen. "It invited me to your evening." Soren shifted 1 pace but did not vanish. The rope on the cleat made a circle of itself like a lesson. "Not here," Kai said. His eyes flicked once at the spread of dock cameras mounted on poles like patient stars. He nodded toward the end of the finger pier where the pilings left a wedge of shadow. "There's air near the piles. The wind tells less of it there." We walked together with the caution of men who could fall in or fall apart and weren't ready for either. The halyards tapped the masts in a thin, relentless music. The water sloshed its small opinions under our feet. We stopped where the walkway widened by a ladder that had learned about cold the hard way. "I lied when I left," Kai said. He uses plain nouns when he intends to be correct. "Rap happened. People did their best grammar at goodbye. Then I told myself I wanted 30 minutes where being interesting didn't have to pass inspection. Soren, I said, because names are handles and I like my hands full when the floor moves. Kai nodded. Soren stayed by the companionway, present and not a dare, the competence of a man who knows the difference between a scene and a room. Are you sleeping with him? The question is a cliff. There isn't a scenic route. You count to one and make your mouth earn your name. Not yet, he said, clean, immediate. Then quieter, the honesty that knows exactly which muscle will bruise. I brought my mouth. A gust decided to rehearse and found the opening at my collar. The masked light above us hummed. I lifted 2 fingers to the soft place at the inside of his wrist where men keep their apologies and felt his pulse write me there without permission. His eyes closed the way doors do when they expect a hand, not a key card. You like wanting that proves something kindness can't, I said, not cruel. Cruelty is just lazy precision. You treat intimacy like a sport and honesty like off-season training. You like to coach, he said. One corner of his mouth attempted a bad idea and failed politely. Which is unfair and also how we're not 2 separate boats inventing currents. What do you want? I asked. Now not the apology you drafted for daylight. He stepped into the inch that had turned into a lie while we were breathing. Heat reached me through cotton the way a city reaches for itself after midnight. He spoke close enough that punctuation found my lower lip. I want to go home, he said. I want you to want me where our towels remember us and desire isn't charged by the hour. Behind us, the cabin lamp clicked. Soren's reflection hung in the companionway window like a good choice someone else deserved credit for. He let out a breath that wasn't approval, oxygen doing its job. I lifted Kai's chin and kissed him, not hunger first, but relief. Relief is the kind of appetite you can walk up a dock without having to explain to strangers. He leaned into it like debt that finally liked its math. My palm slid under his shirt to the heat at the small of his back where his body keeps its best arguments. He made the low sound he never manages on cue, the sound that convinces me our kitchen is holy. The masked light threw our outlines onto the planks, thinner than truth. I used my mouth to fix the ratio. I stopped before the night could pretend to be a witness. He kept his forehead near mine because punctuation beats grammar when the water's involved. We turned. Soren had done the smartest thing a third person can. He wasn't there anymore, and the cabin had tidied its air into something we could afford. We didn't take the gate at a hurry. Rhythm can be a life raft. In the lot, Rain negotiated with the hood of his car. I didn't touch him in the cab. Not touching can be an offering when touching would draft a future our mouths couldn't afford yet. The apartment let us back in the way rooms do when they've been trained to mind their own business. The cinnamon had kept the faith ridiculous sugars keep. We ate it with our fingers because forks would have lied. He leaned against the counter, with the posture that means he wants to be moved. I slid my palm under his shirt again and found heat like an address that still answers the door. He tipped into me, gratitude making him heavy and exact. We were careful in bed, not the kind that kills heat, the kind that knows where to fold it. He knows where to set his hand on my ribs so the rest of me turns without issuing a press release. I know where his shoulder hides when it doesn't want to confess, and how to coax it into telling the truth with weight and breath, and a mouth that has stopped trying to rescue him and still wants him. I won't draw you a map. I'll tell you the room remembered to breathe, and morning forgave us because it had other work. We slept like people who were not done. Light shouldered the blinds at an angle that qualified as suggestion. He made coffee the way he does when he wants me to listen. I opened the window and let the day draft a verdict we could appeal. The dock code sat between us in a blue bubble, a witness that only speaks in numbers. He started with small truths because small truths keep larger ones upright. The notes had run long. The boat made the city feel negotiable. Soren's attention had the grammar he wanted to try on. He ran out of script and then said the part I could keep. He said he is tired of being interesting for a living, tired of being curated, captioned, archived. He said he wanted to be wanted like teenagers are, stupid, earnest, badly lit, forgiven in advance. He said he imagined my mouth more than once above that rail and hated the math. He said he was sorry like a man who knows sorry is a tool, not an eraser. I didn't forgive him at the counter. Forgiveness is a daylight animal and morning's charge. I told him to put on the coat that doesn't belong to marinas and walk with me to the river where the ferry translates distance into fact. On the promenade, a runner's breath taught us cadence we could afford. He hooked his thumb in my pocket like humility. I let him. 2 afternoons later, I saw Soren at the back of a screening room that smelled like ambition and lemon. The city's preferred cologne for pretending art is a plan. He gave me the nod men give when they've chosen to be furniture on purpose. He didn't apologize and I didn't deputize. We stepped into the same elevator. The mirror spelled our names backward and none of us corrected it. It isn't that we agreed. It's that we learned how to read ourselves both ways. Harbor Club still sends tidy codes with cheerful maps. I don't trust their fonts or my inbox. I trust the square of light at 4 when it climbs our wall like an idea that finally put on shoes. I trust the heat under Kai's shirt at the small of his back when my hand remembers its job. And if another 4 digits ever arrive to volunteer where I am to my chest, I'll do what I did the night the boat lights waited. Find air, choose kissing over theater, walk him home with my palm on the part of him that knows the address, and keep teaching our door, gentle, stubborn, local, to open from the inside.